The 52Qs Facebook group has been around for almost 3.5 years, growing to nearly 1,000 members. It's a great community, lots of composers sharing their work, giving feedback on others, and it's just a really good place for learning production music. But there comes a time when the fish kind of outgrows the fishbowl, so I'm here to announce that the 52Qs community is moving. We're going to be talking about that today, as well as listening to an Asian-infused action cue from longtime 52Qs community member Michael Reschke on this week's episode of the 52Qs podcast. What is happening, everybody? This is Dave Croft, and welcome back to another episode of the 52Qs podcast. What is 52Qs? Well, we are a diverse, interactive community of composers and producers dedicated to writing better production music through lifelong learning, mutual support, and encouragement to others along their journey, starting and focusing on writing just one cue per week. So I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for finding us. However you found us, it's really very much appreciated. And also, before we get started, I want to give a special word of thanks to the Patreon patrons and the 52Qs family and friends. Their support helps keep the channel going. Lots more about the Patreon at the end of the video. And if you want to skip over today's podcast topic, which is talking all about the brand new 52Qs community, then you can hit the timestamps in the description below and check out Run For It by long-term 52Qs community member Michael Reschke. So yeah, timestamps in the description below. But I wanted to just first start off by announcing that we are moving. The 52Qs community is moving. We've been on Facebook for quite a while, like I said at the intro, for about 3.5 years, and Facebook's been really, really good. But we're starting to feel kind of the edges of the map, or we're a fish who is too big for the bowl. There's lots more we want to do. And we are moving over to a community called Mighty Networks, which is, I say a community, it's really more of it's a platform. And this is a platform that's been around for quite a while, and several other communities which you might know about, specifically academies or schools such as Sync My Music and the Production Music Academy, among many others, use this network. So it's well tested, and lots and lots of features that Mighty Networks brings to the table, being able to meet other composers by location, by specialties. We'll be able to create threaded topics. We're going to have mastermind groups. There's interactive feedback, interactive workshops, Zoom office hours, all of this. And so we are moving over to Mighty Networks. But first, let's talk about why we're moving. And the reality is that, like I said, we've just kind of outgrown Facebook. And there's also, that idea of, ad tracking, social tracking, and just some of the, dare I say, ickiness of Facebook. And it's just, and I know that there are members who haven't joined 52Qs because it's on Facebook, and they're not on Facebook. And I'm not necessarily here to litigate social media and all of that, but it can be really, really distracting on Facebook. It can be really, really distracting keeping up with other things as they're happening. You're there just to kind of post your cue, get feedback on your cue. And maybe you message somebody else and you send them, an instant message about maybe a product you're thinking about, and then an ad for that product shows up, and that's just, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of icky. And so we're moving off of Facebook. And like I said, there's a lot more. There's so many more things that we want to do that Facebook just isn't allowing us to do, or it's just not really really there to do that. And so we're moving over, like I said, we're moving over to Mighty Network, and lots of threaded topics from feedback to music production, music composition, performance technique, industry insights, gear and equipment, and many more. We're adding new topics all the time. Also, you get a personalized feed, so there's not necessarily any cats or babies, or even more so, politics, and no, ranting and swearing and NSFW posts. None of that is going on. And there's also a worldwide composer network. And I'm going to show you and kind of walk you through Mighty Networks here in just a second, because I want to show you. And if you're listening to this podcast, then be sure to check out the video for sure. The link is in the podcast description, and you can follow along with us. So lots going on over at the 52 Qs network. Okay, so let's first talk about what about Patreon? What about the Facebook group? All right, so the Patreon. The patrons have been so faithful for well over a year, and I actually have one patron who goes back 3 years. And the first thing is, we're not closing the Patreon. It's not going away. The live streams are going to continue over at Patreon, and it's just a way to toss a coin, to your YouTuber, to your composer, and it's just a way to allow folks like you and like the 70 plus patrons who can just give a little bit as a tip or a way to say thank you. And so we are still going to be offering the live streams through the Patreon system, and it's going to continue. You don't have to do any of this. It's going to continue. But why not just add tiers to the existing Patreon? Why not just, make, tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 3? And that's all well and good. And I legitimately thought about that. But first, the Patreon fees are kind of a lot. The Patreon fees, they take a big chunk out of it. And there are real limitations from what Patreon allows creators like myself and how they can interact with the patrons, because it's all designed, and it's unapologetically designed for someone to support a content creator. And it's a very one-way street, and it's fantastic. But as soon as we start talking about, well, I want my patrons to connect with each other. I have a guitarist in the Czech Republic, and I have, a pianist in Las Vegas, and can I connect those? How do we allow those folks to not only have a discussion with each other, but help each other out? Maybe the keyboardist needs guitar. Maybe I have a vocalist who lives in LA, or somebody, a pianist who lives in London. How can I connect those? And Patreon does not allow that. There's no way really for the patrons to talk to each other. And so it becomes a very one-way street. And so that's why I'm not just adding tiers to the Patreon system. It will remain a way for someone to log in, to just kind of throw a couple of bucks, help keep things like the 52 Qs website happening, help keep the podcast and Buzzsprout hosting and all of that. It helps to keep all of that going. So it's not going away. And the Patreon patrons will still be listed at the end of every at the end of every podcast episode. And just like I will be adding now the 52 Qs friends and family members. More about that here in just a second. So what about Facebook? Well, I mentioned this at the top. There's just limitations in the group feature. It's tough to follow threads. It's tough to organize things. And there's like zero control over what you see. Right? And so if you want to see posts by a certain member, or if you want to see, I remember a couple of weeks ago, somebody asked a question about royalty statements or about mixing or about ozone, and finding that is eternally frustrating in Facebook. And it's great It's great for groups to come together, but once the community starts really, really growing, then things get really lost. The same is also true of like a Discord server. I love Discord. There are some really good Discords out there that I'm a member of, and I love communicating. But that's kind of like a giant chat room. And why not just start up a Discord server? Well, some of the same reasons is organizing threads and topics, being able to offer interactive like Zoom meetings and live streams and all of that. That's very, very difficult on Facebook. And like I mentioned, there's some privacy issues. If we're just being honest, there are some privacy and some social tracking issues, and I know for a fact that there are folks who are not a member of the 52Qs community right now because we're on Facebook. So we're going to be moving away from Facebook. We're kind of soft launching 52Qs, and I'll talk about like the launch party. We have a moving day party on April 7th. More of that here in just a second. And so the 52Qs Facebook group will be slowly winding down as we shift focus to the Mighty Network at 52qs.com by July 1st. And so we won't be accepting new members, and we will. It'll still be there, but we're not really going to be focusing on that moving forward. Just because we don't want to kind of split our focus, especially with Patreon still happening. We're not going to keep Patreon and the Facebook group and the new Mighty Network. We're going to be winding that down by July 1st. So I mentioned we're having a moving day party. We have an open house on April 7th. 2022 at 4 p.m. Eastern. You are invited. There's going to be links to that in the show notes, so be sure to check out the information, links to the moving day party. And by the way, all these graphics, these were all done by my wife, by Shannon, and she is also super talented, very smart. She has her master's in musicology, her undergraduate in music history. She's a former theory professor, a music history professor, and she's jumping in, and she is also a very big part of the new 52Qs community moving forward. So you can access 52Qs right now by going to 52qs.com, or if you want to jump directly into the Mighty Network, you can check out my.52qs.com right now. You can jump in. I highly encourage you to do that. But let's first talk about the new 52qs.com, and then we will take a look at the Mighty Network over at the 52Qs community. So when you go to 52qs.com, you're no longer just automatically forwarded to the Facebook group. There are lots of things to check out here. If you want to go to the community, then all you really have to do is click on Go to the Community, and that will take you to the Mighty Network. You can go ahead and jump in. But also, I've centralized how you can find lessons if you want to book a lesson, if you want to get feedback videos, if you want to join the mastermind group. These are all centralized. Used to be that you'd need to go to a Square site and all of that, but you can book lessons. You can order a single lesson with me, or a half an hour lesson, or you can order packs of lessons, buy 4, get 1 free, basically get 20% off of a lesson. You can create recurring lessons. That is all there. You can order critiques and feedback videos where you send me your track, and then I provide a feedback video, an in-depth 15-minute feedback video, and I really enjoy doing these. And you can even submit your Logic session if you are in Logic, and I can open up your Logic project and do that. And we also have a mastermind group, and I'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a second. We have 1 slot left for the spring 2022 mastermind, and again, I'll talk more about the masterminds here in just a second. You can learn more about the network by clicking on About. You can sign up for our mailing list and all of that, and if you want to directly find the podcast information, that is also there. And so the very podcast you're listening to, you can subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all of that. So when you click on going to the community, if you're not a member of the community, the first thing you're going to find right away is this page, which is asking you to choose a plan. To join the network is free. It's always free. It's always going to be free. And this is being a 52Qs community member. It's open and to anyone interested in composing production music and learning about the library music industry. You're encouraged to post your own cues for feedback. You can network with other composers, participate in the community discussions, essentially everything that was happening over at the Facebook group and then some. But it's free and you don't have to pay to access that. But we have other tiers. And now before I'm going to go full screen here so you can hear my heart. All right. My point in this is not to sell you anything. The point of the Patreon is not to sell you anything. I'm not here to have you enroll in my course or any of that business, which are all great. And I bless and affirm all of those folks who do that. Things like Make Music Income, the Production Music Academy, Sync My Music. These are all fabulous. And I'm going to be having an interview with Eric from Make Music Income and Jesse from Sync My Music. I'm talking to them, and you'll hear them on the podcast. But that's not what this is. And I'm not here to have you like enroll in this. If you just want to come and you want to join the network, post your cues, get feedback, learn about the industry, and never spend a nickel, I am completely okay with that. But I also recognize that there are many of you who are ready to take the next step in your production music journey, who are ready to learn more. And there are lots of resources out there. But what I'm about, and what 52Qs is about, is that interactive feedback, the opportunity to connect with one another, either fellow composers or through the network, through me and what I do as a professor of music composition, as a musician, as a library music composer, in the form of interactive real-time sessions. And that's what 52Qs, and that's what these other tiers are about. Is it's giving you private instruction, whether it's in the form of one-on-one feedback or the live streams or through workshops. And so being able to offer these things to you beyond the 52Qs community. And again, if you don't want to do anything other than that, I absolutely welcome you, and I hope you join. But I want to talk about, for those of you who are ready to kind of bump it up a little bit, maybe you're looking to go beyond taking some courses, which again are great. But if you're ready for interactive feedback, if you're ready to connect with me through Zoom and start really talking about your cues and breaking down, whether through workshops or lessons or office hours, okay, how do we start really getting some traction on your career? Then keep listening. The first tier is the 52Qs friend. You have access to the full network, but you also get access to monthly interactive Zoom workshops, which are featuring a range of topics and guests from around the music industry. And we're going to be bringing in some names that I think you will probably know. Also Q&As with library publishers, composers, and even music theory workshops, composition workshops. Our first workshop is coming up on April 11th, and it is a mix and master workshop where I'm going to walk through, deep dive the mix and master process. And this is a Zoom session, so it's completely interactive, all in real time. It's not just chat box like through YouTube. And I'm going to be applying the mastering process, my mastering process, through your cues. Members can submit their cues, and I will run a mastering pass through it, and I'll give it back to you. You are welcome to do with it whatever you want, but all in the sake or in the name of real-time learning. And so that's what the interactive Zoom workshops are about. It's not mixing and mastering every month. Every month it's going to be different. But you will have access to those. And you'll also have access to the weekly music production live streams. Just like the live streams, those Zoom workshops are archived. So even if even if you're watching this or listening to this well past the workshop, you will still be able to go and view the archive of that workshop. And Mighty Networks makes it so simple. You join in, you sign up, you RSVP for the Zoom, you get the Zoom workshop, you get the link, it shows up on your calendar, you get reminder messages, and you could just join right in. You get a little countdown. Hey, this workshop is starting in an hour or whatever. And so Mighty Networks does all of that. It's all completely integrated, and it's absolutely fabulous. So that is the 52Qs friend. Now, the 52Qs family member, this is for composers who are really ready for professional industry level feedback on their cues. They are looking they're writing consistently, and now they're ready for more direct feedback. So you not only get the access to the 52Qs community, you get the interactive Zoom workshops, you get the music production live streams, but there are two real key features of being a 52Qs family member, and that is weekly interactive feedback and critique sessions, which are live real-time Zoom sessions where you submit your cue and then I break it down. Very similar to what I'm going to be doing for Michael a little bit later, but I'm actually bringing it into a session. And I'm looking at the mix, looking at the mastering, looking at form, structure, much more in depth. Much more in depth. It almost is like a little 10 to 15 minute private lesson. You know, if you really want to kind of think about it, that's kind of what that is. And in addition to those interactive critique sessions, there's also weekly Zoom office hours where I open up Zoom. And you can ride along as I'm doing my production thing, whether it's, sketching cues or producing podcast episodes or cleaning up audio or whatever. It's essentially an open door for you to come in, ask questions, watch me do my thing, however you want to spend that time. And then finally, family members get 15% off lessons, feedback videos, and items purchased on the soon-to-come-out 52Qs merch store, which will include really cool things like t-shirts and mugs and other sundries, because we have to have a merch store. And then finally, the mastermind member. This is really for composers who are looking for professional mentoring, accountability, and are really serious about creating sustainable careers in the production music industry with focused, interactive feedback and in an interactive environment. Exclusive group. If you're looking to make real inroads in the production music industry, then this mastermind group is absolutely for you. Now, if you're not familiar with the mastermind concept, it was coined by Napoleon Hill, the man who wrote Think and Grow Rich. And he says that the mastermind group is an alliance of two or more minds working in perfect harmony for the attainment of a common, definite objective. Success does not come without the cooperation of others. And so what this is a think tank. It is a group of composers getting together to workshop ideas, discuss topics, listen to each other's cues in an open and candid forum. That's what the mastermind group is about. It is a 12-week program, and the program starts the first week of April and runs through June 26th. And we have weekly meetings. And every week we talk ideas, we network with our mastermind cohort, discuss strategies, practices for production music. We take deep dives into industry topics. We talk about productivity, and we listen to each other's cues. And it's you're expected to produce. It's 12 weeks. And so you're expected to write a cue every week and come and talk about it. It's definitely a two-way street. And in addition to those weekly mastermind meetings, you also get 3 one-on-one coaching sessions, essentially one lesson per month. And that's where we can take an even deeper dive into your specific cue. It's an hour-long session talking mixing and mastering, compositional techniques, and much, much more. So when you go to the 52 Qs, you're asked to choose a plan. You can choose the free plan, access the network, no problem. Just join, sign up. It's like signing up with a Facebook group, but without all the Mark Zuckerberg ickiness. And you can access that. The Friends plan is $14 a month or $149 if you pay for the full year. And you get all those things that we're talking about. You get you got friends with benefits, the join the network, the interactive Zoom workshops, and the weekly music production live streams. To be a family member, it's $39 a month, and it's $3.99 a year. So you can save a little bit of cheddar. Can I pull off cheddar? I don't think I can by subscribing annually. And so you get access to the Friends group as well as the family group, and you get those benefits, the weekly interactive feedback and critique sessions where I critique your cues, weekly Zoom office hours, interactive workshops, the music production live streams, and 15% off lessons, feedback videos, and items from the merch store. And then finally, the mastermind group, which is $449. That is the 12-week intensive boot camp for composers. Runs through from April 4th through June 26th, and we have one slot left. It's a limited so that we can keep the cohorts nice and small, and everybody really gets to know each other and networks together. And so we have one slot left, and you get those benefits we talked about. The 12-week program of intensive mentoring and accountability, access to the exclusive private 52Qs mastermind group, the interactive group sessions, the one-on-one coaching sessions, which are 3 one-hour sessions. And again, it runs from April 4th through June 26th with meetings on Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday at 4 o'clock Eastern. And we do have a payment plan option available for that. You can check that out by going to 52qs.com and clicking on the mastermind group. And you can click, there's a payment plan there. Mighty Networks doesn't have a 3-month payment plan, so we process that through our store. That's what that's about. So it's $159 for 3 months. And so that's what's going on. That is all that is happening. And like I said, if that's not anything that's interested to you, again, I'm not trying to sell you. I'm not trying to monetize you. I'm trying to let those folks who are ready for that interactive feedback, who are ready for much more interaction as opposed to kind of taking an online course, then that's what's going on. But let's actually talk about the 52Qs network. What happens now? Let's say you signed up, whether you're on the mastermind group or family or friends or whatever. Let's take a quick look at what Mighty Networks brings to the table. And I'm so excited about this. Well, first of all, we have these features across the top. This will feel very much like the Facebook group, very much like you can, I can make announcements. There's our weekly threads, and I have a video showing the weekly interactive critique and feedback sessions, the podcast episode, and links to the group. But you'll notice, right at the top, there's a question from Richard and a quick thank you and posts. There's a week 11 post. But even more exciting than that is over here, the topics. And let's say you want to find the weekly feedback. Well, there they are. There's all the weekly feedback, easy to find, easy to navigate, significantly easier than anything on Facebook. And it's organized much more succinctly than you might find like on a Discord server or in a Slack community. You can find all of the podcast episodes, and you can even follow these topics. You can find topics about music production. And this isn't just articles from me. This is questions. These are, hey, somebody asked a questions about some string patches, or if recommendations for other plugins and instruments or sales. That's what's happening over there in the music production. Music composition asks things related to theory, arranging form, music performance and technique, industry insights, gear, equipment, connecting and collaborating, mindfulness and well-being, navigating the emotional and psychological challenges that come with living a creative life. And then finally, docs and resources where we have listings of the frequently asked questions. We're building a 52Qs reference library, a series of Spotify by playlists that you can, what soundtrack reminds you of dramedy? What artist is really good at tension? So we're building SoundCloud playlist right now. Different contracts that we've talked about. That's what's happening over in the topics section. We also have these events so that you can check out different events, whether it's office hours or the weekly mastermind, our moving day party, which I talked about earlier. You are invited to this. It is Thursday, April 7th from 4 to 5 Eastern. And we're going to walk through and answer questions about the industry. And we're even going to throw out some coupon codes. So you definitely want to stick around for that. One of the things I'm really excited about is the specialties sorting. So when you go onto the Mighty Network, 52 Qs, and set up your profile, you can say that, hey, I'm an acoustic guitar specialist, or I specialize in drums and percussion, electric guitar, electronic music, and more. Then let's say that I am a drummer in need of a guitarist. Then I can look up by specialties, click on guitar, and those are all, I can make a post to all of the guitarists or all of the folks who have indicated that I am a guitarist in the specialties. And I can direct message them. I can make a post to all of the members of the guitar. And this is absolutely something that Facebook can't bring to the table. Discord can't bring to the table, the ability to connect with other folks by what they can offer and what you can offer other people. And then finally, the groups, the friends, the family, and the mastermind. That's how all of that is organized. So that is what's going on over at the brand new 52 Qs. I can't tell you how excited I am about it, and I hope you join. And if you find value in monthly workshops, if you find value in the private lessons, then I do hope that you join us over there. I hope that you join us. So let's change gears and take a listen to Run For It. This is by Michael Reschke, who submitted his cue over at the brand new 52qs.com Mighty Network. And he says, here's a piece I did some time ago, and I wanted to tweak it some more. It's a percussion-based piece with an Asian feel called Run For It. So let's take a listen, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. Well, Michael, first of all, thank you so much for submitting this cue. I really enjoyed it. Knowing that you are a drummer and a percussionist, I am not surprised at all that we got such really good percussion things happening in this cue. So thank you so much for sending this along. The first thing is the title, Run For It, doesn't really do it justice, I think. It's a good title. I actually like the title, but the fact that this is kind of Asian infused, and you even said that in your description, you're walking through a park in Japan when you're discovered by the police. You run to get away, you hide, and then you have to run for it. You get away, which might be absolutely what the scene is for. But if I'm a music supervisor, kind of listening through, or rather reading through a bunch of cues, and I know that I have a scene that's happening in Japan or in somewhere in Asia, then I'm going to want to find cues that somehow the titles imply that Asian influence. And so this is kind of a tough line to walk, because you don't want it to sound tropey, and you definitely don't want to get into cliches. But I would think about some way to infuse Asian or Japanese phrasing or something into the title, the same way that you did that for the cue itself. That would be my recommendation. And even as I sit here, I'm trying to think like, okay, Dave, how do you do that? Well, I'm not sure. Otherwise, I would come up with a title for you. Run for it. The only thing that comes up to mind is using some of the instrumentation. So koto or shakuhachi. I don't know. Something to think about, but that would be a suggestion from me. There's a high kind of something, sounds like it's around 18K or so, which is kind of making my back teeth itch a little bit. And so I would look at the EQ and tamp that down. I like the string work here. Good taiko rim motion. I would ease off some of the cymbal work there. I would maybe do 1, 2, 3, maybe half note hits on the cymbal there, just so it doesn't. We don't jump levels of energy too much. And here, I think we could use a much more solid downbeat. Boom, and then put a big old downbeat, and that note right there, I think we can finesse that a little bit more. Now, it's not an actual shakuhachi recording, so you really can't do some of the things that you could, but you can hint at it, maybe kind of pitch bend it up a little bit. And let those not the audio tails, but the attack envelopes and the release envelope, especially that release envelope, let it kind of fall out. It kind of seems to just stop. Right. And so if you had a little bit of a slower release envelope, I think that could help. And maybe pitch bend up into it. And just give it a little bit more time there. And I would do a reverse energy something, or a taiko roll, and really hit into that downbeat of this next section right here, around 30 seconds, which I think is fantastic. Those are well timed. We're right at 30 seconds. So if we wanted to give an editor an opportunity to make a cut down, then they could do that at that point. All right, and I would keep we're adding on to the right, and so we're adding this kind of halftime feel to it, and we want to keep kind of building up into it, and we've kind of pulled the drums back a little bit right through here. Also, watch some of the panning, some of the toms, and I think I gave this feedback to you in when I responded in the thread itself. But the toms are a little extreme panned, and panning is something that I feel we have to be a little bit careful with, because you have to imagine your cue sitting underneath dialogue and sitting underneath action. And so when you have things which are really extremely panned, it could potentially be a red flag to an editor, because it might pull focus. Now suddenly there's a sound happening way over here in the sound field. Now it's happening way over here in the sound field. So we just have to be mindful, in my opinion. Like, those toms are really extremely panned, and I like the panning, and I love the idea of that tom hit going across the stereo field. I think it's a little too extreme. And this is something I find in some drum set libraries when they have their panning set up, is that like the top tom is kind of centered-ish, maybe a little to the left or right, depending on if it's drummer's perspective or audience perspective. But then the floor tom is like way, way to the right or way to the left. And it's a little bit too extreme for me, especially, this sounds like a left-handed drummer because the floor toms are all the way to the left, and it's super extremely panned. Love that groove, but I feel like we've lost. Yeah, we kind of pulled energy back for about 10 seconds and then we pushed energy forward. It feels a little stop-starty to me. I love that. That snare drum sounds great. Nice building here. And I would not pull energy back here. I would push it forward, 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 forward. Love this riser. And I would use that riser here. I would use absolutely that same riser leading into that first cut into the 30-second mark. Maybe a little bit down in the mix. I like the melody. Yeah, super simple melody, and that's, I feel like all production music melodies should be relatively simple, very motivic, meaning they're repeating with variations. And I'm trying to think of what I think about that gap. I don't know. I dig it. Yeah. Boom, boom. Nice, big, giant hit. And it could be a little bit longer, I think. I think it could be a little bit longer, and we're about 1:20. And so usually around 2 minutes or at least 1:30 is what most libraries are looking for. If they don't tell you how long it should be, then around 2 minutes is kind of what I shoot for. And I think we could spend a little bit more time coming out of this first kind of section, because the first 10 to 15 seconds really feels like intro, which is okay because you do a really good job of establishing where this is going. I would probably think about introducing my melody a little bit earlier in that. And I think you can let that melody cook. Do we have melody at the very beginning? Maybe hint at that melody. Boom, 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 boom. And think about with that koto. I know I'm like ping-ponging all over the place. I'm so stream of consciousness today. Throwing a few little pitch bend, just flicks of that melody. And just really just kind of flick the pitch bend. This imitates as closely as we can, a koto player or a guzheng player kind of pushing into the string to kind of bend that a little bit. But this melody, I think, needs to come in much earlier, and get that happening. But I really, really dig this, and I love your work, and I love how percussive this is. So thank you so much for sending that away. This was a cue that was submitted over at 52 Cues, specifically the week 12. The week 12 search, the week 13 search is not search, but the thread is wrapping up now. And if this is something you're interested in, as we've talked about all podcasts, head over to 52cues.com, join the community, and your cue might get featured here over on the podcast. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much, Michael, for submitting that, and thank you to everybody who has already jumped into the 52Qs family and the friends and in the community and just really helping that community grow. And I know that over on Mighty Networks, it's really we're going to be able to offer and do so much more than we ever could over at the Facebook group. So I hope to see you at the Moving Day party on April 7th. So you can go ahead and RSVP to that. We'll have links to all of that below, and I hope to see you over at the brand new 52Qs community. Like I said at the beginning, this would not at all be possible without the support of both the Patreon patrons and the friends and family of 52Qs. To be a patron, it's just $1 a month, and you not only support the network and the channel, but you also get access to the music production live streams. To be a friend, and we talked about all the benefits earlier, and to be a family member of 52Qs, you can check out all of those things at 52Qs.com. But that's going to do it for me this week. I hope you had a stellar week 13, and I will see you next time. Until then, peace. The 52Qs podcast is copyright 2022 Dave Croft, all rights reserved. The music played on the podcast is copyright of their respective owners and is used for educational purposes only. For more information, including joining the 52Qs community and submitting your cue for consideration on the podcast, head over to 52Qs.com.